Okay, well, good morning, everybody. So this is a session basically on website basics. So do you really need a website for your business? Well, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you can access the handouts. So go ahead and go out to bit.ly/score website basics, and you'll get the handout of the presentation. And then also there's an SEO tip sheet. You can download that anytime. So once you actually get the handout, you'll have that link as well. And as same thing with the evaluation, you don't have to actually click that and actually access that. We had some issues with that the last time because there was a setting in the SCORE Google form setup that I did not see before, which basically eliminated anybody that was not part of SCORE to be able to access that. So hopefully it's now public and you should be able to do an evaluation of this workshop today. But go ahead and download the website basics and get that going. I'll leave this up for a couple of minutes. It's been a wonderful last couple of days if you've been able to get outside and enjoy the weather. I tell you, I actually get out obviously because I do some cycling, and so the weather has just been ideal. I mean, humidity and wind, and hasn't been that many bugs to deal with, so it's just been a wonderful time of year. So let me get moving on to the next screen. Okay, this is me, okay? This is what I do. I'm a digital marketing strategist. I've got more than 30 years experience, if you haven't figured that out by the color of my hair. And 10 plus years of inbound marketing and digital marketing. Inbound marketing is about capturing a lead, qualifying the lead, nurturing the lead, and then converting them to a client. And basically that's part of digital marketing. That's really the goals of what you want to do is you want to capture new leads, prospects that come across your content so that you can actually make them into a customer. And one thing you'll probably hear me say over and over again throughout the presentation that there's three basic things in marketing and actually sales. And most people, you don't like sales, okay? I get it, but you know, nothing happens if somebody doesn't sell something. So basically, everybody really is in the business of sales. So those three things are arouse interest, create desire, and motivate action. So you have to have a goal in mind in everything that you're doing. And my business focus is to basically help businesses get found in a search when the prospects are looking for what they do, which is different because some people think, well, I mean, they can find me if they type in my business name. Well, I hope so. That's really something that should be a given. If somebody refers a business to a friend, they should find you if they type in your name, okay? But if they're looking for what you do, that's a whole different area. So we're going to touch a little bit about that, but this is really about today and building what's all involved in a website. So I guess the first question is, do you really need a business website? And I know some people that I deal with in my networking groups don't have a business website. They say, oh, I don't need that. I just deal stuff on Facebook, or I'm working on Instagram and you know some of the other social media platforms. And I'm going, well, that's okay. But really in terms of getting found when somebody's looking for what you do, you really do need a website. You do need a website. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's the number one place. And the reason why is that it gives you credibility. Okay. If you don't have a website, people just don't think that you're as credible as a business. So you really need to have that extra credibility. Visibility. It's 24/7, 365, or like, you know, this year, 366 days out of the year. It's there all the time. They can find you any time of day or night. And the searchability, okay, which is search engine optimization. So like I say, if somebody's looking for what you do, are you turning up? Okay. are the pages of your website that are the solutions to the problems that you offer really turn up. Okay, so your website really is your digital hub. I mean, everything you do basically should take and tie in with your website. That does not mean that if you're doing something on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, that you can't just stay in that one particular realm. Those social media is a conversational tool. It's a relationship building tool. So it's really not your website because it really doesn't offer solutions. And if somebody's actually looking for a solution to their problem or somehow to make a purchase decision, they're not really going to find it on a social media platform. So that's why your website is key, and all the different areas that you are online in your digital footprint should connect in some ways with basically a link back to your website. And sometimes when you're actually posting on these different things, you're actually referencing something that is on your website, so they can go there and then look around. So website statistics, I went and actually looked for this when I did this session the first time, and there's no new information. So this is really from March of 2019. So what's interesting is that only 50% of small, medium-sized businesses have a website. That's really kind of a shocking kind of statistic, because like I said, that really is the place that search engines are going to be able to return the information to a prospect that's looking for what you do. Okay, 70–80% of consumers conduct online research. I mean, how many of you actually go out and when you're going to take and either solve a business problem or make a purchase decision, start doing a Google search? You know, I can say probably, oh, my phone went off, sorry about that. I'm going to say that probably, 99% have done that. And you probably looked at reviews as well to find out, well, is this company credible or not? Is this a good product or not? So that's one of the things that they do. 38% of people will stop engaging in a website with poor design. Okay. Just recently, I worked with a client that I actually have been working with for probably 2 years. Started about 2 years ago, and it finally resulted in a new website last week. But before that, when they reached out to me back again in November, they basically had a HTML website that was built in something like Dreamweaver or Microsoft Expressions Web. It was basically some static pages, and that was non-responsive. So that means that it would not take and reformat to fit a screen like a tablet or a mobile phone. And so, I mean, they'd have to do pinch and zoom to actually read the copy or click a link or do something else on it. So it was really very unfriendly. And but like I said, if a website has got some poor design, people are not going to hang around. Okay. Greater than 50% of all website traffic is via a search engine. And what's amazing is that the same figure is probably true about how it's done on what device. It's going to be mobile. That's why all the search engines now take and have mobile first indexing. So they want to make sure that your site is going to give a good user experience to those people that are using a different size screen. Okay, 84% stop if they don't have a SSL certificate, if the site is unsecure. Well, and that's interesting because people sometimes will look up in the address bar on their browser and see whether or not there is a lock up there or there will be a circle with an eye on there. And in some cases, some of the search engines will actually provide a warning. Something will come up in red, or like I had today. I clicked the link in an email that took me to the website, but they use HTTP instead of HTTPS in terms of the link. So my security software on my phone actually said, this is an unsecure website. You don't want to go here. You know who it was? It was Microsoft. I mean, I don't really, come on guys. So you really need a SSL certificate. We're going to talk about that a little bit further on. Okay, and 23% revenue with consistent brand. Oh, in other words, you get an increase of 23% revenue with consistent brand presentation, and that's across not only the website, but everywhere. Okay. All right. And then in terms of the ratios, 20 to 80%. Oh, in terms of how people react, 20% will actually read the text and 80% will actually look at a video. So video is very powerful, but video is one of those things that if you embed it on your website, it's not really content that the search engine can index. Now, one of the things that I always promote is the fact that you should use YouTube as your video hosting source so that you can embed it from there. YouTube, you can take and optimize a video just like a website. So that's very important to take and do that. But if you don't have text on the page, the search engine can't index it to return it as a search result. So that's very important. Even if the end user isn't going to read it, they're searching for that content and the search engine's looking for that content. So it has to be on the page. Now this is another, oh, go ahead.
I had a question. Is SSL used for all websites or example nonprofits or just for businesses?
Every website needs an SSL/TLS certificate. And what that is secured socket layer and transport layer security. I mean, that's the geeky meaning of those particular acronyms or those initials. So yes, all the search engines are looking for that. They give you, basically, it's almost as if it is expected. If you don't have it, you're actually going to get downgraded. So what a certificate does is it encrypts the communication between the end user that's visiting your site and your hosting server. So those communications are garbled. And you have to understand how the internet works. I mean, if I log into a website at my home, it's going to go first to the node to my internet service provider, which happens to be CenturyLink. And then it's going to go probably to several other nodes before it actually gets to the web hosting server of the company that I'm actually looking at. So all in those little nodes, there's an opportunity for hackers to actually sniff out and try to capture information that might be exchanged. So if it's in clear text, especially if you're doing something like filling out a form, you know, they can capture that information. So you want to make sure that it's encrypted, and that's what the secured socket layer certificate does. So yes, every website is expected to have that. And we'll cover that a little bit coming down. Okay, so there's two components to a website. A lot of people think, well, yeah, okay, domain name, and there's website hosting. Well, domains are registered with a domain registrar, all right? And you really need to pick that very carefully based on a couple of factors, cost, as well as, you know, some of the services they may be able to provide. As a rule, some people choose the domain registrar and the hosting company as one. So they only have one login to actually handle things, such as Bluehost or GoDaddy or GreenGeeks. There's a number of other ones. But you can actually take and put your domain just about anywhere and then take and host your website anywhere. So you can actually move your website around. Makes it a little bit more convenient. Okay. And the reason being, a domain is a little bit more difficult to move. If you're not doing it properly, you could lose your email and website visibility for up to a week. So as the domain gets repopulated throughout the entire world, the node, but the International Consortium about Names and Numbers, which is the ultimate place for the domain registrar, they basically control that. And with that switch between different domain registrars, it can take up to a week. So that's why you really want to pick your domain registrar very, very carefully, because you probably are going to live with them for a very long time. It's not that you can't move it, and I've moved some domains, but you have to be able to get into the domain record to actually set it up properly so that the transfer happens within the shortest period of time possible. And usually that's 24 to 48 hours. And then you want to take and buy as many names that are associated with your business as possible. When I say that, I mean, okay, .com is what everybody expects. But let's say you want a .marketing, or you want a .net, you want a .org, you want to take and buy .us. You want to take and maybe buy those domains so nobody else can take and grab those and use them. So you sort of buy and hold. And you can actually take in the domain setup and put forwarding on all of those so that they will all forward to the ultimate website. Okay. The other thing you want to add, and a lot of domain registrars are now including this as part of the registration, is privacy. It's WHOIS protection. So if you ever wanted to take and find out who was in control of the website or who to contact, you could actually do a Google search on WHOIS, and you'll get all sorts of different services that will pop up. And you could actually put that website domain in a link, and it'll tell you who registered it, who's the billing contact, who's the marketing contact, who's the tech contact. And it'll actually tell you when the domain comes up for renewal, when was it renewed last, how old it is, where the website is hosted, all sorts of different things. And hackers know this. So that's why if you add the privacy, it does hide all that information. So it's not you or your business that actually is turning up and being revealed in that WHOIS visibility check. And then usually when you automatically take and buy a domain, it's locking the transfer. You don't want to take and have that available where somebody can somehow trick you into unlocking it or moving that domain. I had one of my clients just recently get a letter, which is really strange because sometimes it comes via email too. But he got a letter and said that his domain was coming up for a renewal. Okay. And I know where his domain is registered. And yes, it was coming up for renewal within the next 30 or 60 days. Well, this company was going to do that for them. All they had to do is go to this website URL and then take and pay them $89 for the 1-year renewal registration. I said, well, Wayne, the thing is your domain only costs $20 a year with the current service provider, so the domain registrar. So this is nothing but a scam to try and get you to move the domain and pay exorbitant amounts for something you really don't need. So that's what locking the transfer is all about. Now, website hosting, you've got a lot of different choices, okay? And that depends too about how you're gonna take and do your website, if you're gonna do a self-hosted website or if you're gonna use a website builder. And so there's a lot of different tools there. There's pluses and minuses to everything. So that's one of the things you have to look at. Now, one of the things about self-hosting is that it's easier to move a self-hosted website. You get upset with your website provider, hosting provider. Let's say I don't like what's going on with GoDaddy, so I want to take and move it to Flywheel, okay? So you can do that very easily, and within 24 hours, actually a lot of times in a shorter period of time, the people that would take and put in the domain they're either going to see the website on the old server or they're going to see it on the new server. It's that easy. So that's why there are these two components, and it's just easier to move a website. And then sometimes the basic SSL TLS certificates are included in the hosting plan. Not everywhere. For example, GoDaddy charges you $80 a year. Flywheel, it's included in the hosting price. You go to greengeeks.com, it's included in the hosting price. Bluehost, it's included in the hosting price. So, I mean, those are the things you got to look for to make sure that this particular thing is included. The basic certificate is something that is expected. If you're doing something that's going to involve e-commerce or exchange of more private information, then you have to look at maybe some different certificate levels and pay up for that. Now, there's some clients that I actually have on various hosting platforms that don't provide the certificate. So I actually went out and found a source to buy a very inexpensive certificate. And when I say inexpensive, I mean, okay, instead of paying GoDaddy $80 a year, I went and found one that was $8 for a year. And you could actually buy it for up to 3 years right away. And when you do that, all of a sudden it gets down to about $15, $16 for the 3 years. It's like, this is a no-brainer, okay? And you buy it, and then you just have to put a little reminder in your calendar so that when it comes up for renewal, that you'll take and do a renewal on the certificate in a couple in that time period. But ideally, I like finding a web hosting company that will include the certificate as part of the hosting package, because then you never have to mess with it. Okay. Domain names. Domain registrar, like what I said, what you need to look for is price. They're all over the place. You can pay $50 a year, you can pay $15 a year, and you're getting the same thing. They're not providing any extra added value for that. The other thing is you want to make sure that once you get a place that you're registering, you have accessibility to the CNAME record. That's really a fancy word or term for actually being able to get into the domain record so that you can change different settings. So a tech guy like me, I'm a marketing geek. So I mean, I do the marketing and I understand SEO and I understand marketing, but I also understand how to take and get into a domain record to actually make the changes so that you can take and point the website to the different areas. The other thing too is if you're going to take and add, let's say, Microsoft 365 Exchange email service or the Google G Suite, you're actually taking your email off of the hosting server and you're putting it onto another service, and you have to adjust your domain record accordingly. And that's why you have to have accessibility to that. And there are instances where you don't have that with certain services. And I can let you know about that when we come across that. It should be ICANN accredited. Most domain registrars are, and that'll be coming out. I usually like to look for a US-based service. I mean, you can buy the domain just about anywhere, and sometimes you don't even know where the company's located. The other, support. How can you take and work support? Some companies that I've dealt with, basically you can only open up a ticket or do an online chat. Now, online chat's fine. I've used that, and it's usually very good and very quick to resolve an issue. But some people like to be able to talk and call somebody, and they really would like to talk to somebody that would be able to speak a decent form of English. Because sometimes you find that you're chatting or talking with somebody that is not US based. And then communication can become a problem. So that's something that I also look for. When you buy a domain, buy for multiple years. So if you can buy it for 5 years, buy it for 5 years. It does give you a little extra SEO credibility. The search engines look at the domain registration and say, oh, this guy plans on being around for a while, okay? And then the top level domain. okay? That's your .com. But like I said, buy the .us, buy the .net, buy the .org, and just hold them if you want to. I mean, it's worthwhile. I mean, I've got a client that I think he bought about a half dozen different domains for basically it's the same domain, it just has a different extension to it. Okay, domain hierarchy, all right? The top level domain is going to be like a www, company name, dot whatever, okay? That's the top level domain. A subdomain is going to be whatever it is, .company.com. Now, what's interesting is that some of the free website builders that will give you Weebly or Wix or WordPress.com, they will give you your company name .wordpress.com. Well, the SEO value, or the SEO juice as we like to call it in my trade, goes to company or WordPress.com. It doesn't go to you. So that's where a subdomain really doesn't help you unless the company name is your company and you're actually putting in a subdomain for another website that would be very specific to a product line or a blog or something else. So that's the domain hierarchy. And you could actually go something dot subdomain dot company name dot x. I mean, that's like a fourth level, but that gets into areas that most businesses won't ever get into. But, and the www nowadays isn't really required, but I'm just using that and showing you that as an example. Okay, website hosting. There's many options for free hosting, but like I said, you have to be cautious about the domain name because a lot of these free services, like I said, become your company name.wordpress.com or company name.weebly.com or company name.wix.com. I mean, you're not paying for the hosting, but you're not paying for a domain name either. So you're really not getting the SEO value that you really should be getting. Paid hosting, on the other hand, is all based on the number of websites that you need, okay? Now, for example, I'm paying for a multi-site. I have really unlimited website capability on my shared hosting service plan. So I actually currently have 4 websites on there. I had 6, I spun 2 of them off just recently. For various reasons. I wanted those clients, those business partners to actually have those under their own control and their own hosting plans. I still work with them. It's just that it's best to have them under their own plan. And you can do different subwebs. So sometimes I'll take and put together a staging server and I'll call it staging.companyname.com. And that way I can actually build something, play around with it, share it with my clients. And once they say, hey, that looks good, then we can push it over and make it a live site. And that's exactly what I did with this one company that had an antiquated HTML website that we just pushed over last week to a nice live WordPress-based website that is a content management system. So what you also need to look at is hosting volumes of visitors on your websites. Now, most people and most businesses, the basic plans that most website hosting companies have are fine. They cover like 10,000 visits and so many gigabytes of data transfer a month. And that's something that you have to look at when you're buying the plan. I have a client that basically gets 30,000 visitors a month. So it's like, okay, the basic plan doesn't work for him. He's got to pay up for what is actually happening because so many people are actually coming to his website. He's driving so much traffic to his website that he needs a higher volume plan. So we have to pay up for that in order to not run out of resources, so that if somebody goes to the website, it doesn't basically say you can't access it now or it crashes and then hurts everybody. So that's one of the things. And tied in with that is storage. So if you've got a lot of files that you're putting up there, then you're going to need some storage. That would be, let's say you're sharing some PDF files and maybe some graphic files or spreadsheets and other things, and they can start adding up in terms of space. So you want to make sure that you have the storage capabilities. And what they call bandwidth is basically how many people can actually access the website at one time. So, I mean, there's all different kinds of plans, and shared is the most common. There's virtual private server, that's what VPS stands for, which means that, like Flywheel, they actually deal in a VPS type environment, so that your website is almost segregated, and nobody else's traffic on that server is going to take and interrupt anybody else that's going to be trying to visit your website. Dedicated is a specific website server, so you are the only person on that server, period. You have a dedicated web server, and that means that you've got tons of resources, okay, based on what you're paying for. And I'm talking about several $100s a month when you start getting into a plan like that. And then there's cloud-based services. And what's interesting is that sometimes this VPS service and cloud are tied together. Flywheel, for example, offers cloud services, VPS style services. So all their stuff is up in the cloud. Their servers are in the cloud. They're actually paying other services. In this case, they're using Google servers to actually deliver their websites, the websites hosted with their company, to the world. You probably have heard of Amazon Web Services, AWS. That's the same thing. Amazon offers web hosting services. So it depends upon what you actually need. And I have a very good friend of mine, actually it's my former boss from the software company, that his company uses Amazon Web Services, and it's scalable. So if they get a lot of traffic one month, it automatically ramps up the hosting, their resources to accommodate them, so they don't get a out of service or denied service kind of issue. So that's one of the things. And then when it drops down, they basically pay on the scale of the services. Okay. And then you want to look at, are you doing e-commerce? Okay. What are the capabilities of it? Now, when you start talking about e-commerce, then you may start talking about, again, all the other things, the volume, the bandwidth, the storage, all come into play, how that actually works out. And the design tools. There are lots of design tools out there. And I'll take and show you that when we actually get into a little demo phase. I can take and actually go out there and go on to my plan and set up a site, and I can show you some of the things that are available. I usually look for US-based servers. There's a number of things. I work a lot primarily in the WordPress environment. WordPress is a design tool. It's what they call a content management service design tool. And there are a number of services that are all over the world. I've got some clients on Flywheel. I have some on Green Geeks. I have some on GoDaddy. My stuff is on GoDaddy at least up until October of this year, when I'm looking at making a change. So those are the things that I look for, but you can actually end up hosting your stuff all over the world. One of the companies within the WordPress world is SiteGround, and that is over in one of the Eastern European companies. That's where it's based. So their support is over there. That's where their main servers are. It's not that they don't have a server pool in the United States. It's just that that's where their main support is, and that sort of what gets me, you know, I'm not that big of a fan that way. And then again, the support contact options. Can you talk to a real life person? And that's what I usually like. So a lot of the services that I use, I can call them up or I can initiate a phone call and I can talk to a real live human. Website types. Okay, so if you're looking at website builders, there's a lot of different kinds of tools out there. Squarespace is one. It's a great service. I still say you should take and buy the domain somewhere else, and then you can take and host your site on Squarespace. Okay. Google Sites. Google actually offers a website building program. Same thing. They also offer domain registration. Okay. But that means that you're going to be tied to them for their domain and whether or not you can get the same kind of open access to it so that you can control. Let's say you don't like where your website's hosted after a while and you want to take and do something else. You don't like the, let's say, the limited design capabilities that a Google site offers you. You want something that is a little bit more robust. Well, then you can take and build the website somewhere else, but you have to take and get into your domain so you can point it to that particular hosting company. And then the hosting companies themselves have website design tools. I've got one client that is very happy using the GoDaddy website builder. Very simple, maintenance free. They can get in there, little simple designs, they can do it. It's fairly SEO friendly, so it's something that, okay, I helped them put the site together, I showed them how to use it, and they're happy as they can be. Okay. Right now I'm working with a new client on Weebly. I haven't really got into it that much, but we'll see how that one works. Web.com is another one. Okay. Haven't worked with that, but that's just another company that can offer a website design tool. Wix is one that most people probably have heard of. I mean, they're out there advertising. And I like to say there's an X in the name for a reason. I don't like using it. In fact, a lot of SEO practitioners know that this is actually a very poor tool when it comes to website search engine optimization. So, in fact, Google doesn't like it either in that regard. They made some changes over the years, but that's one of the site builders. I mean, a lot of these things are easy to work with for, let's say, if you're going to do the website yourself, and it's like drag and drop this module in. Oh, I can make it look real pretty. And that's one of the problems with some of these sites where, oh, I can make it look really good. I can put all these images in here, and they don't add a lot of text. And remember, search engines don't read images that well. And you need to have text on the page so the search engine can index that page and understand what that page is all about. Okay, then there's self-hosted websites. And I mentioned CMS, Content Management Systems. Okay, so you got WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, Concrete. I mean, there's a lot of different CMS programs out there. And they all have some pluses and minuses. I can tell you right now, WordPress is the king of all the CMS tools that are out there right now. 1/3 of all websites on the web right now are on WordPress. So it's a very powerful tool. But that doesn't mean that, let's say if your needs are such that you can't go out to a website designer that will build a custom HTML website. And I know some people that do exactly that. They're coders. They will actually write the HTML code to make your website look and function the way you want it to function. You may not be able to get in there to do any edits, but it'll work. And I can tell you right now, a lot of the, let's say like a bank, that's a custom HTML website. They're not using WordPress. They're not using a content management system. They're using a custom HTML website because they need ultimate security. And that's one of the things that a custom site built on HTML will provide. It's not that you can't get that with, let's say, WordPress and Drupal and Joomla and Concrete and some of the other tools. There are add-ins that will make that a very secure site. Where you're hosting it also makes a difference. For example, Over the years, I fixed about 4 different websites that were all on GoDaddy, on shared servers, that were all WordPress based, that got hacked, okay? Which means that somebody got into the server, was able to download malware into onto the server, phishing software, all sorts of different things, redirects on their file. So I mean, when a search result came up and it looked like it came from that website, somebody click on the link, they'd go to Kiev Girls, they'd go to a Canadian drug site, they'd go to whatever, it's just one of those things. And I can tell you one of the things that you need to do on WordPress or even any content management system is routine maintenance. There are maintenance things that you have to do on a routine basis. I'm a big one saying, get out there on a monthly basis and just make sure everything is up to date. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Pluses and minuses about website builders. Okay. Website builders, like I said, they're easy to use, okay? Basic design tools are included and there's no maintenance. They do all the back-end stuff. Squarespace, you don't have to worry about any updates to it. They do all that heavy lifting, okay? And a lot of times the SSL certificate is included in the plan. I would say almost 99% of the time. There are some exceptions, so you have to look at that when you actually start doing that. And like I said, they're generally very secure, okay? The minuses, people tend to take, and if they're doing a self-build on their website, they're heavy on graphics. They make it look pretty, okay? I've got a friend that runs a restaurant out in Benson, and he built his website. It's still on Wix. And his homepage is what they call a splash screen. It's actually a SWF file, which stands for Flash. It's a Flash movie. And so there's really no content, because to a search engine, movies don't have content, just like pictures. There's no words to it. So that is a negative. You have to press a button, say, enter my website. And I'm going, why are you doing this? That makes no sense. Build a nice homepage that people can navigate to. The other thing about a website builder is you cannot move it, generally, okay? The one exception that I know of is a WordPress website on WordPress.com, but you are paying a rather high monthly fee to be able to have the luxury of moving that website to another hosting service without rebuilding it, okay? And sometimes it's difficult to implement the full search engine optimization package, okay? Like I said, Squarespace has some issues. I've had some issues with the GoDaddy website builder. You have to figure out how it's being used, especially on images, how to take and optimize an image properly for SEO. There's limited functionality depending upon what you pay, lack of add-ons. Again, sometimes the add-ons are all dependent upon what are you willing to pay for. I mean, a WordPress.com basic site might be $8 or $9 a month, but it isn't until you start getting to the $30 a month range where all of a sudden a lot of the tools that you may be looking for come into play. And then avoid hashbang permalinks, okay? And there's another one that I'll include in here, which is ASPX, which is a active server page, server exchange. And what that means is that the search engine looks at the URL, and it's companyname.com/ hash exclamation point equals, and then there's more content. To a search engine, that means that that page is not rendered or visible until it's in a browser. Search engines do not use browsers to index a website. They look at the code. And if the code for that page tells it saying, you can't see me until it's rendered in the browser, this is the address to it, there isn't much code there. There's no content there for the search engine index, so it skips over that. I'm a member of a cycling club, actually 2 cycling clubs, and they both use the same hosting company because it has some features and functionality for memberships and directories and all sorts of other stuff. And for that, it's good. What's bad is that the only page that can be optimized is the home page, because every page is an ASPX page. In other words, it has a content equals ASPX, and then there's some gobbledygook to take and send it to the actual page, which is basically telling the browser, you cannot see this page until you render it in a browser. So the search engine looks at that, says, I'm not indexing that page. That's not going to be something that's going to be part of my search results. So no matter what you do in terms of content and all the work that you may work on that particular page, that's not visible. So that's why you have to make sure that the permalinks are not gobbledygook, that they're actually something that says companyname.com/ this is my solution. Okay. So that the search engine actually knows what that page is all about. Okay, we looked at some elements, and one of the elements that you need to consider is page speed. How fast does a page get rendered? Remember, in one of the little instances, that if the thing doesn't render in about 3 seconds or less, people are gone. Okay, so you look at, okay, Google My Biz, GoDaddy website, Weebly, Squarespace, WP Engine, that's actually a WordPress hosting site that actually owns Flywheel now. There are 2 different marketplaces for them. WP Engine is a real robust for very large corporations. Flywheel actually deals with the small, medium business market. And then there's Wix. So website builders, the higher the score, the better, the faster. So that's one of the things that we all look at and we all try to work on. And there's a lot of factors that come into play here. Part of it is, where's your website hosted? Is it using solid state drives? Are you buying enough resources to take and deliver your stuff fast enough? So there's all different things. You may get lured into buying a real budget shared hosting plan on a hosting company, and they're not delivering the resources. I mean, I found that out just on my own with the plan that I bought, which was 3 years ago with GoDaddy, that it wasn't delivering the speed. I really had some issues there. So I upped the hosting packages to spend more on a monthly basis to deliver the resources I needed to be able to host the various websites that I have on. It's a shared server. So I'm not the only company on that server. So those are the things that you have to look for. CMS pluses and minuses, content management systems. Okay, the pluses, they're highly flexible, customizable. Oh man, the world, I mean, it's really easy to find exactly what you need and add to the website. They're easily moved to another hosting company. If you have a self-hosted website, you don't like where it's at, you can get it moved. Within just a matter of hours, people are looking at the new website or the old one until it's actually 24 to 48 hours, they say, within the entire world, okay? All the different nodes that are in the world. Highly optimizable for search engine optimization. Again, if you want to get found for what you do, you need a service and a solution that's going to be optimizable for search engines, okay? A lot of times they're very affordable, okay? And that's one of the things that I really like, that you can find a very affordable hosting package. And to me, you have more control over a self-hosted website versus, let's say, one that's on one of the website builder programs. Again, I'm working with people that are on Squarespace. I'm working with some people that are on GoDaddy's website builder. I'm working with a new client that's on Weebly. So that's fine. I know that the client eventually will want to move to a self-hosted company. That's one of the things we discussed. It's just they don't have the budget for it right now, and that is fine. Okay, I will work with anybody to try and get them to where they need to be. Okay, and the other thing is you can control the permalinks. Okay, and that's just the fancy name for the URL for the different pages. This client that I just moved over to a WordPress website, on the builder, the hosting program that they are under, which is Bluehost, when I built it, I didn't realize that the permalinks were the standard permalink, which was more cryptic. It was almost like a hash bang. And within WordPress, you can actually go in there and say, no, I want it to show the page name. I don't want it to take and show this, post equals dot 245. That's meaningless to a search engine, and it doesn't add any SEO value. You want to take and put something in there that may have the keywords that are important to somebody that's searching. So a lot of times the pages, which should be solution-based, again, arouse interest, create desire, motivate action, should have some keywords in them, okay? The minus is on a self-hosting plan that it actually does require some security measures, okay? So again, my experience is pretty much on the WordPress universe. So when I take and build a site, there are 3 security plugins, or maybe 4, that I add in so that it will take and add security to keep hackers out, okay? And they're free. There's some that are paid for that you can actually up and pay, and it gives you a little added security and maybe a little more peace of mind. And if you're on an e-commerce website that's, let's say you have only like 100 products, you can still do it on a WordPress website. And I would add, let's say, a little bit higher level security for that, and including the SSL security certificate. Routine maintenance is required, okay? A content management system, WordPress included. WordPress is the engine, okay? It drives the website. The theme is basically what gives it the look and feel. And you can customize those themes and change them around within the theme. And so that's like the body. Like I said, it's the look and feel. So you've got your engine, you've got your body. Then you have plugins. That's all the accessories. That's the bells and whistles. You want to take and add an e-commerce functionality, then you want to put in a WooCommerce plugin. You want to take and put a membership functionality into your website, then you want to take and add a membership directory plugin. So that's another layer. So and since a lot of this stuff is crowdsourced or open source software, but it is cleared with the WordPress company, which is called Automatic, you can have some assurances that it is good, clean, solutions that you can take and add to your website. But that doesn't mean that things don't get changed. WordPress, for example, went through it wasn't a major update. It was an update of significance last month. They went from a version 5.3.3 to a 5.4. So that was a fairly nice upgrade. There were some new features and functionality. Within a week, they came up with 5.4.1. And the reason being was that there were security issues. Now, what's interesting with WordPress being the core is you have to take and realize that the themes are going to change then to respond to the WordPress changes. The plugins are going to change according to the WordPress changes. So that's why some routine maintenance has to be performed. The other thing is sometimes they're not so easy to design on your own. You have to engage somebody to help you design it. But sometimes, well, like I did with this one client, I said, okay, this I'll take and do for you. I'll put this, premium theme in. It's a theme that I paid for. So I give them a real good look and feel. And then I show them, this is how you can take and change things on your own. And here's a document to help you do that. So they have that capability, but they also said, you know, we don't really want to go there. So if we have some changes, can we ask you? I will take and do that. I'll, you know, charge them for my time, but I'll take and actually show them what I did. So maybe the next time they can do it on their own. Now, if something breaks, hey, I'm here to take and help them. And there's a lot of other people that work in the same theme environment and WordPress to be able to take and help them. So there's a lot of resources that are out there. So like I said, WordPress, I really like it, but there's two different versions. WordPress.com, that's run by the company called Automatic. It's controlled hosting. They have a lot of different plans. It's very secure, okay? They have very fast servers. So again, that's probably a good place. Now, one of the things that I always say is that if you're going to go with them and you don't already have your domain registered somewhere, which you should, don't take and register it with WordPress.com. Take and buy it somewhere else and then just be able to point it there, okay? Again, fast servers, they have inexpensive to expensive plans depending upon your needs. And then, you know, they have limited abilities. The things that are self-hosted on WordPress with all the different plugins and themes are not always available to be able to put into WordPress.com unless you buy some of the most expensive plans they offer, okay? But they may have something very similar. I'm not saying they don't have a membership directory tool, okay? It's just that you may not be able to use a membership directory tool that's a plugin that's available outside of that WordPress.com environment, but it's on a WordPress self-hosted website. Like I said, 1/3 of all the websites in the world are built on a self-hosted WordPress website platform. And it's community sourced, it's open source themes and plugins. WordPress itself is somewhat like that too, but it all gets sort of cleared by the developers at Automatic to make sure that hackers aren't doing something nefarious with loading a plugin that's going to, let's say, somehow download spyware or malware, phishing software into your website unknowingly. And there are tools out there to understand when a plugin is abandoned, for example, hasn't been updated in years, or let's say something has caused it to become persona non grata within the WordPress environment. I had an optimization tool that I had used at one time that was removed from the WordPress.org. So there's two environments, WordPress.org library, because they were not updating the code. There was some security issues with their code, so WordPress.com actually took it off. Are there some questions? No? Okay.
Yeah, there's how hard is it to change from a WordPress.com hosted and built site to using WordPress.org?
Depending upon the plan you're buying, okay? One of the plans that they have, I don't remember if it's just the most expensive one, which is like $25 or $30 a month, you can take and move. But all the other plans that they have, you're dealing within the WordPress.com environment and you cannot move it. Okay, the other thing with the WordPress.org, and that's not where it's hosted. That's just the library, that's the environment, that's the developer community where everybody sort of resides and gets their stuff cleared by Automatic. The there's just so much out there. There's huge ability to customize your website. Like I said, if there's something you need to have your website do, they've got it there. And there's also a local user group right here in Omaha. And they, well, when we were had the ability to meet, we meet at the Do Space on Thursday nights, usually the fourth Thursday. In fact, there's a meeting this evening, but it's being held via Zoom for the time being. And there is a WordPress Omaha 2-day event. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. It had been in August. I guess it's still kind of up in the air. Had been down at UNO. And so it's a place where you can go and meet other people that are dealing in the WordPress environment and learn things about WordPress. And there's all sorts of workshops and sessions and that sort of thing. So WP-Omaha is what you should look for. There's a Facebook group. There's a web page. Their stuff is actually on Meetup to be able to take and actually go out there. And tonight's session is all on SEO. So I'm going to be there because it's not that I know everything, but I certainly want to be able to find out if there's something else that I don't know. But there's also things that I might be able to contribute. So,
Jeff, if I could interject something for a minute.
go ahead.
Rob Ruiz, who has done as one of the organizers of the WordPress meetup, actually did a webinar earlier this month on WordPress. So that should be available on our YouTube channel. If it's not already available, it'll be really soon. The other thing is that he is going to do another webinar next month. It's not quite on our calendars yet, but it's one of the things I'm scheduling today. I believe it's the 22nd, and it's going to be of July, and it's going to be the 10 mistakes that beginning WordPress users make. So that'd be a good one if you're interested in WordPress to attend.
Yeah, there's a few things about WordPress that you want to make sure that you cover. So that sounds like a good one, and that could be. There were two different kinds of meetings that WP Omaha and Rob would actually do, or have somebody else do. And one was written for the people that were the coders, people that would write the code and be able to do different things, what they call the development side of WordPress. So that was one side. And I have attended some of those, and I can follow along pretty well, but there are times when the stuff goes right over my head and I'm going, oh, I don't know, why am I in this particular thing? The other one that you're talking about, and like tonight's meeting, they call it the admin side. So that's the thing that you should look for, the admin sessions, because that's for the administration side of WordPress, where you'd actually get on the dashboard to actually do the things on the site to make it function. Okay, so search engine optimization, you have to understand two things. Well, it's one, keywords, but there's two kinds of keywords. There's transactional keywords and there's educational keywords. So, and your site should be optimized for both. And what I like to say is that each page of your website should be targeting that solution to that particular problem. And those keywords should be on that thing. For like my dentist, I've got general dentistry pages. I've got a family dentistry pages. I've got a TMJ page because that is a specific problem that he solves that people are looking for. So you have to have the transactional and educational. So like, you know, what's educational? Well, somebody says, well, what causes knee pain? Okay, that's an educational question. Somebody's asking that on their phone. They speak into that. So you want to be able to have your page turn up with that FAQ, that frequently asked question, what causes knee pain? So that you can say, from an expert point of view. Okay, and then I'm looking for a doctor that's going to solve my knee pain. That's a transactional kind of question. So you want to take and have that as available as well. So that's why your website's got to be built along those lines. And each, what I call each solution should be its own page so that can turn up. That's not always true. I've got some providers that have multiple, let's say, problems that's on a page, because it gets kind of, they would end up having hundreds of pages, which isn't really practical to manage. So we manage it in other different words. So keywords are important, but they're not just single words. It's usually a phrase that somebody's asking. So here's some keyword tools. Trends.google.com, semrush.com, keywords everywhere. There's a Chrome and Firefox extension for it. SEO Quake, it's one of my favorites. It's a way to analyze a page. And that's not only your page, that can be a competitor's page too, so that you can get some competitive research on what's going on. WooRank is another tool that's very similar to SEO Quake. Again, these are dumb tools. Sometimes they say something that is, oh yeah, there's no problem here. And yes, it is, because yeah, certainly, you know, the page title fits within 55 characters, 55 to 70 characters, but it's not really delivering the keyword content that you really want. Okay, we'll cover a little bit about that later. Google and Bing. I mean, if you're just doing a search anywhere on Google, it's going to give you the top 5 results as you're typing as a dropdown. Now, it's not going to give you search volumes, but it's going to give you an idea of what's actually being searched on. And then, of course, when you take and actually select one of those, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, it's going to say other related search terms. That again gives you a clue of what other people might be searching on. So like you may be looking for, let's say a video camera, okay, for your computer. But you're looking and you say, well, I not only want that, I want a cheap or maybe affordable video camera, okay? So those are some related terms that come into play that you need to actually think about including in your content. And then there's some ad tools that both Google and Bing, which is actually Microsoft ads, actually have, that you can actually use to get search volumes, average search volumes on a monthly basis, as well as related search terms that are being searched upon that give you, let's say, more ideas on how to take and actually incorporate content into your digital platform. And I like Bing in a way because you can actually get the last 12 months of related search terms, when the search terms are actually being searched upon, because every month is not the same. There's an average, but every month is not average. There are some months that are higher than others. So that's where you want to take and understand that. And then there's paid term tools, Word Tracker, Ahrefs, Keyword Sheeter, SEO Power Suite, which is link-assistant.com. This is actually one tool, which is actually a multiple set of tools that I use. They do have a free tool, so I encourage you to actually download the free one that's limited to just one site, which would be your site. So it would be something that you may want to try. I have obviously the paid tool, so my clients, so I could actually do a lot of different things. So it does understand backlinks. It understands keywords. It will do an audit on your entire website. Some of those tools that are on the free sides, like SEO Quake or WooRank, will only take and do the page that you're looking at. So you'd have to go to every page to get the same information, where the SEO Power Suite will actually give you the entire site. Okay, about content. Content on the website, you need content on the website. That's what search engines index. It should be original to you. Avoid duplicate content. In other words, Don't just go out to somebody else's website, copy the content, put it in there and just make a few tweaks and say, oh, instead of that company, you put your company name in there or your doctor name or whatever. You just don't want to take and do that. You want to make sure that it's original in format. It's not that you can't go out to, let's say, some other websites to give you some sort of idea. It's just that you don't want to take and copy their content 100%. Images. Obviously, to a human, that's what makes the website interesting. It attracts attention, all right? Images also can be optimized in their name, in the alternative text field that's in the image. And some of those other website builder tools, it's difficult to find alternative text field. They may not offer it. They may call it something different. So there's things that you have to look at. That's what tells the search engine what that image is all about. And it's for ADA compliance as well as search engine optimization. Pages, like I said, should be based on the solutions to the problems your prospects are looking for. You got to have the text on, words on the page. Again, people may not read it, but the search engines index it so that page can be returned. Embed a video on there, short video, so that when they get that page, they say, oh, I'll look at that 30 or 60 or 90-second video. That'll explain it. Well, again, everything that you're doing is to arouse interest, create desire, motivate action. The goal is to have them click on the search result page to get them to your website. Once they get to the website, have them do what you want them to do so that you can basically capture the information. In other words, get them to, let's say, fill out a form where they're going to give you their contact information so that you can reach out to them and start a conversation, where you can qualify them, then nurture them and convert them. Inbound marketing. Okay. SEO elements on a page. Page title, something that you usually don't see. Although if you mouse up over a tab on any browser, that's basically the page title. Okay. Meta descriptions. That's back in the code. That is something that if you don't fill out, the search engine will return as the black text in a search result. So if you don't fill it out, you're turning your marketing over to the search engine computer. Plus and minus to that is that at least something's going in there. Minus, it may not be exactly what's going to help the prospect that's looking for the solution to actually say, well, that's the page I want. The page title is the blue text on a search result. So between that and the meta description, those are the two elements in a search result that you can control, that you can use keywords in, so that the searcher, the prospect, can say, oh, that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to click that link to take me there. But there's other elements on a page that will help that get indexed and ranked properly for the search result to be returned. Headings. There's H1, there's H2, H3, all the way to H6. There's a lot of different styles, and that's what those different numbers are. Only one H1 per page. Multiples on all the other ones. You want to use keywords in there. You have to remember that a search engine code or algorithm is written by a human. What's important to a human to attract attention? Headlines, headings. So you want to take and put the keywords in there that are important. Bold and italic, same reasoning. You put your keywords into a bold or italic, that's going to help attract search engine attention for indexing. A number of what they call keyword density, how many times is it in the page, is important, okay? And then again, the alternative text tags on images so that the search engine knows what the image is and that it can be returned. For ADA compliance, that means people that are visually impaired, the alternative text and text on a web page gets turned into speech, into a voice return tool, so that visually impaired people can understand what the website is. Domino's lost a multi-million-dollar lawsuit last October because they did not put alternative text on their images. Not that you've got the deep pockets that Domino's has, but it's for ADA compliance, but it really is also about search engine optimization and keyword density on a page. The images can be returned as a search item as well. So all those things are important. Okay, so here's a checklist that you should have for setting up a website. Your domain name. Secure the domain name on a registrar that you're happy with, that you can live with for a long time. Decide on the design tool. How are you going to go about it? Are you going to use a website builder, or are you going to do a self-hosted website? And what content management system are you going to use? Then you want to take a look at the website hosting. Find a hosting partner. You don't have to live with them forever, okay? But one that's going to deliver what you're looking for. And obviously, a secured socket layer certificate is one. The resources that you need is another. So that's the other thing. And I always look for customer service, whether or not they've got solid state drives on their hosting platform. And a lot of the companies have switched to that instead of the spinning hard drive. They've gone to solid state. So much faster. It delivers the content better, okay? Research your keywords. Use the tools that are out there, the free ones. Do the competitive research. What are your competitors using? That can be very revealing as well. And then, of course, the ad tools that Google and Microsoft provide, because that's really one of the things. And whether or not you want to engage a professional web design consultant. I do build websites, but I also have a great graphic artist and a couple of them that build outstanding websites. They do not have a clue on how to optimize one. That's where I come into play, writing the content, knowing where the content is supposed to go. And that's where we've got some good partnerships, because sometimes they come across a client that needs their website optimized. I get involved. I won't do the design. In fact, a lot of times I'm not doing a website. I'd rather not. I'd rather have them do it. And there's pricing all over the board on that. So, are there any other questions? Well, no. Well, this is a thank you, but don't go away. Because what I want to do, because I thought it might be helpful, is actually show you, let's say, the process of putting a WordPress website on a self-hosted platform. So we're going to take and end this. I'm going to minimize this. And I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to GoDaddy, which is my hosting platform. Got to move my thing here so I can go over to sign in and manage hosting. Okay. So I'm going to log in. Now, one of the things I engage on practically everything I do is two-factor authentication. GoDaddy just sent me a code that I've got to put in, and it's a one-time code.
Hey, Jeff,
So, yeah.
you show the first set of links again so that folks can jot them down. The very first ones that you showed, the bit.ly links.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. How's that?
And just so everybody knows, those are case sensitive, so you have to adjust or write them down exactly like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I found that out. Bit.ly is one that is case sensitive. Generally, a URL is not, but In this case, they are. And if you actually get the first one, SCORE Website Basics, you get the other two because you'll download this presentation, which will have those. Okay, so here I am in my web hosting area, and I've got a domain name that I'm not actually using, but I have it bought. I purchased it and I have it reserved. So I don't have, let's say, a website tied to it right now. So I just clicked on it, and in the self-hosting platform, this is one of the things I actually look for with a hosting partner as well, because some of them don't offer the same flexibility. Bluehost is one of those. They don't offer the same look and feel in terms of getting into the nitty-gritty on the server. DreamHost is another one that I have a client on, is very similar. I had a client on Site 5, and oh man, that was a company we got off of as soon as they bought the hosting company that they had been on, and boy, everything went downhill. And I mean everything. Customer support was probably in the Ukraine. They didn't understand English. The only way you could do customer support was through an online chat or a ticket. And I was having an issue, so I went on online chat, and the person that was on there said I should contact customer support. And I'm going, isn't that what I'm just doing? Aren't you customer support? So we knew we had to get off of that service.
All we're seeing is a blue screen, so I think there might be something that you need to share.
Okay, hang on. Your screen sharing is paused. New share. Okay. How's this?
Still, I think maybe we're seeing your desktop. Oh, there we go.
So you should see onqdigitalmarketing.com.
Yeah, now we're seeing that.
Okay, this is my GoDaddy account. Like I said, this is where my sites are hosted right now, and my basic website as well as several other clients are on here. And I'm going to go to cPanel admin. Like I said, some hosting companies just don't offer the same flexibility and visibility. This one is fairly robust in terms of what it offers. So I can actually go into the file manager. I can do different things, FTP accounts, and a lot of this stuff is like, I'm running my business. I don't need to know this. Right, you don't. But the person that may be working on your website may have to access this. And I do like this service. There's other hosting companies that allow it as well. Flywheel, for example, does not. The only way I can access the file structure is to actually go into an FTP connection to actually do that. That's file transfer protocol for those that want to know what that means. So there's the databases. WordPress websites and other websites all have a database, a MySQL SQL database. Okay, so I've got 5 applications right now, and here are domains, and you can add domains and put in subdomains and all different things. So I'm going to just continue down and find my Installatron, application installer. So now this actually took me to where my applications or my installations are. And I really want the application browser. So I'm looking at the application browser. So like I said, look at the apps for different communities, okay? Different tools that are out there. And then you go down here, content management. Look at the different content management systems that are out there. Holy cow. I mean, and all of them have different pluses and minuses. And I've dealt with Drupal and Joomla in the past. I don't any longer. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's one site that I work on for a nonprofit, that has a national arm that built the website in Drupal that has maximum control. I have limited access to it, and it's a Drupal-based website. But here we go to WordPress. So I want to go here to WordPress, and I'm going, okay, so here I am, and now I want to take and install this application. I want to create a new application. Come on, there we go. So in my case, it defaulted to the top level domain I have in my system. If you scroll down here, if I added other domains, I've got CBMC Golf, I got CBMC Golf Digital Marketing, I got Omaha Connect Ride, I got Omaha Her Breakfast, OnQMarketing.com, OnQDigitalMarketing.com. So I've got a lot of different options there, but I really want to leave it on this one for now because there's really nothing there. And it tells me that it's going to incorporate or add the most latest version of WordPress. And it's going to be in English, which obviously that's helpful for me. You're accepting the end user license agreement, okay? Which means that whatever happens, it's not their fault, okay? You can do automatic updates, and sometimes they'll say update the minor versions for security reasons, okay? Or update to any new version. I don't necessarily like updating things automatically because things may break. For example, I have a client that we just updated something yesterday, and they noticed a little change in the functionality of the website. So I've got to go into it this afternoon or after this meeting and figure out, okay, what happened? What broke? Okay, there was a plugin that got updated that is not showing properly any longer on the website, so I want to take and get that fixed. So that's why usually, and this is, I actually did this, it looked fine on my computer screen. What it didn't look fine on was a mobile phone. And that's where they were giving me the heads up. So that's where I have to go in and resolve that issue. So that's where, I mean, you can update the themes automatic and update all the plugins. You don't want to, and plugins right here. You don't want to do that. And then update backup. I like the fact that services, some services like GoDaddy include a automatic update on the server. That's the first place, okay? You want to have it up there, okay? So here is some of the basic things. Admin username. Sometimes, this is not one of the #1 mistakes, is that the service will put in there admin. Every hacker in the world knows that admin, the first key to the puzzle to get into a dashboard, could be a username. So you want to put something that's unique. I'm just going to leave this as a default. And the same thing with the password, because I'm going to take and wipe the site anyhow later on. Administrator email, well, that doesn't make any sense because it's not going to go there. So I'm going to put my thing in there. And this is where you'd actually title your website. Okay, website tagline. Okay, a lot of ways this is like the meta description for your home page. I'm just going to leave that in there for now. Two-factor authentication. Okay, now this is from Jetpack from WordPress.com. That's a plugin that gets automatically added. I may not keep that because a lot of times the functionality is a paid service. So, and there's other free ones that you can put that two-factor authentication in. Limit login attempts. Yeah, that's another plugin, but I may eliminate that because there's another one that I use for security reasons that also adds that functionality that I kind of like better. Enable multi-site, I'm not doing that. Okay, so we're just going to hit install. And I don't want that saved. And I'm going to say go ahead. So now it's processing. Oh. Directory optional. Sorry, I should have taken that directory out of there so that otherwise people would have to go to onqdigitalmarketing.com/blog to actually get to the homepage. We get rid of that setting. Guess that's one of the mistakes I made in WordPress. Now we'll hit install. Processing. Okay. And there it is. Copying files and directories, building the database. Now this is going to come and load the most recent free theme with WordPress called 2020. Okay, now I'm going to take and click on the WP-admin link. That'll get me to the dashboard of the website. Now, generally, if you're doing this with outside of the GoDaddy cPanel, what will happen is that it will take and actually pop up a login screen. Okay, so you have a security area to go through. But one of the things I add for a security piece of security software is to change that WP-admin to something else that may not make any sense to anybody except you. Okay, because hackers in the world exactly know that that is the default login location. So this should take me to my dashboard. And now it's sort of saying, I hope everybody's seeing this, different things, different themes that I can actually click on. So these are the free themes that are coming through. So, oh, just didn't take and put that in. So let's say I'm going to be doing a coffee shop. So barista. That doesn't mean you have to do a coffee shop, by the way. You might just like the theme and look. Okay, start with this template. So, I mean, GoDaddy and a lot of these tools use the same process to actually start something up. You don't have to use this, especially if you're going to take and load something. But here I'm installing this template or theme to my WordPress website. And it should give me the dashboard view. It says, don't worry, this won't take long. Well, it's like watching paint dry sometimes. Come on. Okay, so there we are. This is the home page with Barista. So there's content here. And if you're a coffee shop, you don't have to do a whole lot of changes. You can go in here and make some things. Okay, maybe you don't like the fonts that are being used, the content, the images. So, and there's some of the things down here like, okay, powered by WordPress. Well, for some people, you're going to take and do that. Well, I'm going to take, come on, where's my cursor? Okay, here we go. I'm going to take and go over to the upper left-hand corner where it says Barista, and I'm going to take and click on that because I want to go to the dashboard. So this is the dashboard. This is the nuts and bolts of what you do behind the scenes for your website. And they give you different options and different things. So it comes up where you've got home. And here's the thing about updates, okay? That's where if you do a self-hosted website, you're going to see, let's say, a little red circle over by updates once in a while. That tells you that something needs to be updated. If I click on that, here's the three things that actually show up. In fact, I'm surprised that, well, you can see now there's 4 updates, okay? it says I've got the latest version of WordPress. Okay, well, that's great. Here are 2 plugins, Akismet Anti-Spam. You can do that as a free one for a personal site, nonprofit organization. But if you're a business, you have to pay to actually use that particular plugin. And that basically is to keep comments and spam out of your system. There's other ways to do that. Limit login attempts reloaded. So that would have to be updated. Then you've got 2 themes. Well, wait a minute, I just used Barista. Why is 2019 and 2020 there? Well, those get loaded with WordPress. And you can take and see that there's 2 plugins and there's 4 updates. So there are the 2 and 2. Now, the way I like to go about it is if there's an update for WordPress, you do that, then you check your site, see if there's any impact. Then I go down to themes, because that's the next layer, update your theme so that the active theme, and make sure that that actually is working. Now, then I take and update the plugins, and I'll do that one at a time to see if that's actually working properly. Now, what I do in the meantime, in between each one of these updates, is that I have a backup tool that I will back up the files off server. In other words, they're not on the GoDaddy server. They're in my Google Drive. They're in a Dropbox folder or my OneDrive, so that they are off the server of GoDaddy. So if there is a need, a disaster recovery need, where GoDaddy goes totally south to the bottom of the ocean and you can't access anything, you can still get your files and load them somewhere else. So that's why it's sort of like a best practices thing. So I would just take and hit one of these and say update the theme, and it goes through the process of updating the theme. Now, when you're doing this, the people in the real world, if they actually are looking at your website, will say website under maintenance, check back later. So a lot of times when you do this maintenance service, you want to do it when your web traffic is low. Google Analytics will tell you when your web traffic is low. Sometimes it's intuitive. You know that maybe on a Wednesday night at 2 a.m. in the morning, you don't have anybody look at your website. You're up, you have insomnia, you want to go out and take and do your website updates. Okay, whatever, you know, pleases you. So going down the screen, you've got posts. Posts are what they are. Posts, they're like news posts. They're things that you can take and write, news kind of content. So again, if you understand your keywords, you write a post around a keyword phrase when the keyword is being searched most often. Again, if you understand the keyword tools, you will understand when to write your post when people are searching for that solution most often. Media, just like it says, it's the library where all your pictures are located. And you can add new. So here are your, I'm going to turn that off so it doesn't take up real estate. So here are the pictures that were loaded with my theme. Okay. And really, if you click on any of the pictures, you'll see over on the one side, on the right side, you'll see the file name, file type, and this is where I don't like the file names. There are image renaming tools, so you can actually call this, instead of gallery image.8.jpg, you can name it, you know, cappuccino. Okay, but in the alternative text, you would take and actually say what that picture is, and then add some keywords that are important to the page that the image appears on. That's an SEO tactic. And adding new, just like it says. Pages are the pages of your website. So here, like you see, you've got about, contact, homepage, which is your front page, lookbook, menu, and your privacy policy. And that happens to be a draft that you customize for your website. You may not have that in your top level navigation, but you have it down on the footer as a navigation item talking about your privacy. It's more important over in the European continent, especially if you're doing business over worldwide, you want to take and do that. But, you know, the pages are solution based. This is the solutions to the problems your prospects are having. Comments, this is where a comment might appear. And in the settings that we get to on a WordPress site, we want to take and make sure that comments are always moderated. You don't want them to automatically appear on your website. You want to be able to take and screen them before they appear, because 90% of the time it's going to be a hacker or spammer that just wants to get their URL on another website for a backlink. That's what it's about. Appearance, okay? This is where all the themes are located. This is where Barista is actually located. And we can see, where is it? Active. So this is the active one. Actually, it says go. Thought it was Barista. But we got 2019, 2017, and then 2020. Now, one of the things I do when I go into a website is we have the active theme that's going to be on there. But then I'll click on like 2019 so I can see it, and then I'll delete it because it takes up room on your server, and it takes up room in your database, and it's not necessary. Now I'll delete 2017, but I'll keep 2020. Okay, so that's like a fallback theme. So if something goes wrong or haywire with your active theme, you can go back and activate your other theme for troubleshooting. Okay, it's just a nice way for disaster recovery again. So there's other things in here that you would have to learn about. A lot of things that I do is that when I take and put up the website, I train or teach and give a book as to what all these different tools have. But there's a lot of tools that are out there. I mean, Google just about any term on WordPress, you'll see it. Again, your plugins are over here. So this is where, whatever is active. Hello Dolly is a plugin. You don't need it. So I usually delete that one right away. But if I wanted to add a plugin, hit add new, and then you're starting to see a number of plugins that are out there. There's Classic Editor. Now there's some basic ones that are in here, but I'm looking for a specific one. Okay, I'm looking for WordFence. Okay, WordFence happens to be a security tool, and they have a free and paid tool, and I love them because they provide a layer of security that will help protect your website. And I think I clicked install. Oh, no, not yet. So that's one of the tools that I like, okay? That's a security tool. There's another one to hide your login script. There's another one to stop comments on media or images. Believe it or not, some hackers and spammers have found a way to take and add a comment to an image on your website where you think, how do they do that? There's no ability to do so. That's why you want to make sure that everything is screened first in terms of your comments. You don't want comments to automatically appear. Now, WordFence is asking me to take and put in my email address that I want to get any notifications and security alerts. Okay, and would you like to join our WordPress security mailing list? Okay, I am already on there. I really don't need to, but you would say yes. Okay, and by this checking the box, you agree that it's not their fault, it's your fault. It's the end user license agreement. So once you click that, then you can click yes. And then, of course, they want to try to say, upgrade to premium. All right, it's not that expensive, $99 a year. And they do offer some nice features on the premium level. But you can start out on the free service just fine. In fact, most of my clients are on the free service. But let's say your website gets hacked someday and you have WordFence on it. Or even if you don't, you can engage WordFence for a fee, and I think it may be a couple $100, and it includes a 1-year license to their premium. and they will clean your website. It's a lot cheaper than paying me several $100s or almost $1,000 to go in and clean up your website, which is what I had charged in the past. So WordFence put me out of business, but that's fine. In fact, I actually tell people that's what they should do if they have a problem. So that's the plugins. Now, one of the things I didn't show, like even on themes, is you can add your own plugins or themes. So if I have a theme or plugin that I want to add myself, I've already downloaded, let's say, a premium plugin, and I just want to upload that to my system. I would say, choose the file, and whatever. I'd go into the navigation area and actually choose that file and then upload it and click install now. And then I would activate it and then do whatever I need to do. So, and you can do the same thing with themes. And that's how I take and upload the theme that I use most often, called Divi, D-I-V-I. It's by Elegant Themes. I bought the developer license years ago, so it allows me to install it everywhere and anywhere. And there is also an annual licensing fee that you can do as well. So anyhow, that's just, you know, some of the things about what you can do with themes. You can find a customized theme. And one of the things about Divi is that it allows you to take and do front-end editing. In other words, I go into the web page that you see right on the screen, and then I say enable the builder, and I can change the content on the page right there versus doing something on the back end. Okay, so I'll go to pages and I'll show you what that's about. So I'm clicking on the about page, and it says welcome to the block editor, because WordPress 5 went to blocks where Divi had been at blocks years ago. And I want to move this around here. I got a little preview window. See if I can do that. All right. So this is the back-end editor. So there's the things that it shows me. Here's like an image. So I can actually resize it, replace it. There's other things that you have over here. Here's the content. So you can go in here and change the content, but this is not how the website or the web page actually looks. So that's why the premium themes have a front-end builder, which really is kind of helpful. So like here, I'm looking at a preview of the screen. So this is the screen that anybody else would look at, but I edit page, oops, that's not where I wanted to go. Edit page just takes me back to the back-end builder, where, like I said, a lot of the premium themes that you pay for will allow you to take and change that for the front end. So it's a little bit more user-friendly if you buy a theme, but a lot of times I'll take and for like the posts, I let the people build it just in the back-end editor, because with Divi, you can take and put a custom view on the post views so they can actually get something different than a standard post view. Well, let me go back here. And sometimes when you go off a page that you make a change on, it'll warn you, well, I didn't make any changes, so it's not warning me. But sometimes it's nice because it'll actually keep you from making a mistake and losing some stuff. So we went through appearance, themes, customize. These are all different areas. Menus, that's where you would actually control what you're actually showing up on the menu, of the website. This is where your plugins are. Users. So if you wanted to take and add a new user, you could do that. And there's different ways to take or different criteria, what roles they have. So you choose the username carefully because that can't be changed. Emails can change. So you can actually put one in, first name, last name, website. You can show the password, which is a cryptic one. The WordFence solution that I put in there actually forces a strong password. You want a strong password. It's not that you can't change that. In fact, if you're adding a user and you have their email in there, it'll automatically send the user an email about their account, and then they have the option to change it. But to change it, they're going to have to use a strong password. Otherwise, it won't be accepted. But they can change that. But here there are the roles. You have subscriber, pretty basic. That means they can just see stuff. Contributor, that means that they can maybe make a contribution in some fashion, but they can only mess and change edit their contribution. Author is just what it says. They can author a blog post, and that's it. Editor, they can create pages, but they cannot change anybody else's page. Well, they can change other pages. But they can't take and do the ultimate administrator to take and do things like adding new plugins and adding new users. So that's the ultimate. So you want to make sure that when you're doing stuff and adding a new user, that you're adding them at the right level. Tools. Okay, this is where it's saying, do you really want to leave? Yes, I want to leave. Generally, you don't have to go into the tools, okay? Because you really don't have really much to do in this area once you get it set up. One of the things, the newer version 5.4 of WordPress is that they gave you something called Site Health that's on the home screen. And that's kind of neat because it actually will tell you, hey, some things that you may need to do. But this is area settings. This is where you're going to take and actually make some changes. Like here, site title, you want to change that. You want to put a tagline in, what it's all about. When you take and add the secured socket layer certificate, if it doesn't automatically change it for you here, you have to put an S in here. Same thing with the site SL here. Administrative email, just what it says. Membership. Well, you don't want that because you don't want anybody to be able to register. And you leave some of these other things just as they are. With the time zone, you definitely want to make it Chicago, which is -6. We're Universal Time Center coordinated time area -6, which is Chicago. And then the date format. And then week starts on, for us, say week starts on Monday. Now, when you add, let's say, a WP hide login, I think is what it, or you look for a login hide tool plugin, you're going to see something down over here which you can customize the login script. So that's where the general thing comes in handy. So you would save the changes here, and then you could go on to the next thing. Writing. Okay, if you have a default post category, you want to put more post categories in there based on your product lines. And then some of the other stuff that you could put in here that makes some sense to you. And sometimes the developer is going to do all this for you on the back end. Read settings. This is where your home page displays a static page, home, and post page is called blog. Okay, so those pages were created when I actually did this. Blog post the show at the most, well, I only want 5. Okay, syndication news feeds, that's fine. Post feeds to include just a summary and not the entire post. And if you're building on the website, sometimes you don't want the search engine to actually index the site until you actually go live. So you would actually click that so that your search engine wouldn't index your site accidentally. So we don't need to have that on. If you add an all-in a plugin for SEO, there's a number of them out there, it would remind you that that is actually checked. Discussion. This is where it gets in the comments. Okay. Couple of things. All this stuff is kind of neat, anyone posted comments. Comments must be moderated. Comment must be manually approved. Yes, I don't want comments to just automatically approve and go out there. The other thing, sometimes when you're doing blog posts, you don't want comments to last more than a certain period of time. And you can change that. Most of the time, I take and put in there for my clients 30 days. So, and there's some other tools on here. A lot of it you don't need. Now, the other thing is avatars, and that's where you could set up a Gravatar logo. Gravatar is another service where you can actually put your picture in. Another discussion for another time. So media, pretty much you leave that alone. I don't change a whole lot. Thumbnails, crop, different things, medium size, large size. Those are some of the things. Now this is the permalinks area, and I want to look at this because sometimes it's plain. And you can see the plain one is the site name / P equals 1, 2, 3. Well, the question mark P equals tells the search engine that page won't be rendered until it appears in a browser. So you don't use that one. And a lot of these other ones you don't use. I always default to the post name so that it's thecompany.com / name of the page or the post. That's what you want. Privacy policy page, and that's where you would actually take and select this and use that page. Or you create a new page. You can go out to different services to create the page and upload it to your service. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts, a little bit of background on websites. I hope that was helpful to everybody. Are there any other questions at this time?
Doesn't look like we've got any. If you missed something, this will be available on our YouTube channel later, probably next week.
And maybe you can take and put those links into the description of the video. That
Yeah,
helps too.
We can definitely do that. That'll help.
Yeah. So people can download the presentation and get access to those files. That SEO tip sheet is actually hopefully very helpful because it talks about a lot of SEO places on a website that you need to be working on and maybe some places that you should avoid. So just so that you can understand what are some of the best practices and how you can take in. If you don't implement SEO on your own, if you hire somebody to do it, at least you know what they're talking about and what you should be looking for in somebody that is providing it. Now, one of the things I tell people is that I am not a SME, a subject matter expert in SEO. I'm a SME, a subject matter explorer in SEO. Things change so fast that you cannot be an expert. So that's why things get updated. This SEO tip sheet I just updated this week. So that's why, you know, nothing is static in the world of digital marketing. It changes. Okay. Well,
Thank you all very much and have a good day.
all right. Thanks, everybody.